Good evening. I was expecting to come in here today to discuss some school-related issues. But in light of the announcements made last week, our focus has been redirected to you, Mr. Harrell. 21 brutally murdered teachers and students wasn't enough for outrage to outrage our Uvalde strong community, but your retirement is. You are very blessed, Dr. Harrell. Several weeks ago, you were reviewed by the school board and found to be not at fault for the May 24th massacre, and we all accepted that and just asked that you fix what was broken. The protest that was conducted was for the UCISD officers to be placed on leave pending investigation. It was a fair demand. The story that broke in the middle of all this was a shock to everyone, especially all of us, considering Pete failed through the background check as well. Although your retirement announcement has come as a shock, some of us understand why you feel the need to step down. You trusted your staff and they failed you. They failed you this time. But like a good captain that goes down with his ship, you feel it's best. With that being said, Dr. Harrell, we too stand behind the community when they say you are the nicest, most caring, sweetest man, and for many years, the best superintendent. But your retirement was going to happen sooner or later. And I just hope and pray we find a superintendent qualified enough to fill your shoes.
I agree with everything that she just said, but I want to bring light to something like she said. 19 children and 2 teachers died, and we couldn't get that out there in here every time. So if I may ask, we do need your help bringing people together, because this shouldn't be happening. You got a standing ovation, walked in and everything like that. And we can't get people caring enough to come to these school board meetings or to the city council meetings or anything. But I will say this, if it had been 17 white kids, all of those people out there would have been in here. All of our kids matter. They all matter. So, sir, I need your help, reaching them, because they don't ever come in here.
Thank you so much. Next up, I have Ms. Diana Olvedo-Carew.
Diana Olvedo-Carew. This evening, addressing the school board, Dr. Harrell, echoing some of the things that have been said by Berlinda Arriola and Brett Cross. It's a very disheartening experience for many of us here tonight, as there were so many outside cheering on Dr. Harrell. And yes, I understand that there's reason for some of that in their opinion. But what we're here about tonight, and as Dr. Harrell has tendered his choice to retire as superintendent of Uvalde CISD, I need to ask this board tonight to accept it, not just consider it. Make it a done deal. It's long overdue. It needed to happen. It was inevitable. 19 children, 2 teachers. Someone has to take responsibility for those deaths. We can't just all sit back and wait for an investigation to be completed. We're not asking for criminal charges. We're asking for accountability. We're asking for the people that were elected to represent this community to do your jobs. I personally am asking that you accept the retirement offered by Dr. Harrell, and that you make it not at the end of the school year, but as soon as possible. And then take on the responsibility as the school board, you specifically, Mr. Fernandez, who is the school board president, and begin to do what you need to do as a school board to make this school district what it needs to be, safe and secure for all of our children, all of the time. There's so many things that have been done over the last 4 to 5 months that don't make any sense. What happened last week with Crimson Elizondo was beyond imaginable to most of us. How could that have happened, knowing that the microscope is on you, everybody's watching, everybody's listening, and that happened? It doesn't make any sense. The Uvalde Leader News called it indefensible, and it is indefensible. And that is why Dr. Harrell is retiring. I know that he knew there was no other way out. And so please, school board members, accept the retirement, make plans to move quickly, do what you need to do to take care of this district. That's your job. You appointed Dr. Harrell, accept his retirement, and let's move on and do what we need to do as a community. And yes, as Brett Cross said, Dr. Harrell can take us a long way in bringing this community back together. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Third, we have Ms. Velma Lisa Duran.
Hello, my name is Velma Lisa Duran. I am Irma and Joe Garcia's sister. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, as I was an educator at Robb Elementary School. I'd like to begin with a very suitable verse from the Bible, Luke 12:2. Whatever is covered up will be uncovered, and every secret will be made known. So then, whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in broad daylight, and whatever you have whispered in private in a closed room will be shouted from the housetops. Trusting in our Lord Jesus Christ brings me the comfort and calmness in the midst of this storm as our families continue to battle with your ongoing imprisonment and holding those in yourselves accountable for not providing the basic need of a safe and secure learning environment. As an elementary educator, we teach our students valuable qualities that portray good citizenship. It is embedded in our social emotional lessons. We teach students how to persevere, how to be responsible, the importance of having integrity, being able to have self-discipline, and most importantly, how to empathize with other human beings. These human characteristics need to be taught, modeled, and practiced, as we all know very well that many students come to us from unloving and fragmented families, such as Salvador Ramos, Dr. Harrell, Annabelle White, JJ Suarez, Luisa Fernandez, Robert Fowler, Laura Perez, Javier Flores, and Cal Lambert. You all lack these basic human characteristics. You all must step down and allow TEA to come in, just like they do when your schools are not performing academically, and place competent and compassionate qualified educators to rebuild this district from the inside out. We all know that having a new school with the same complacent leaders is not the change this town deserves. I see the many supporters you still have in spite of your failed leadership and think you are irreplaceable. But look how fast Irma, Eva, Mr. Reyes, and Miss Avila were replaced. Your supporters speak about how you remembered their trials in life and how much they were impressed by your acknowledgement of calling them by name. Well, where were you when we heard the news about my sister being massacred? What did you do to Anne Marie, who communicated distorted and false information to the families as their loved ones were in danger? She is still employed with UCISD. Where was your employee, raw principal Mandy Gutierrez, and vice principal Shanna Wilbert, when we were out of our minds with grief? Your school board members hired you to do your job, and you failed tremendously, causing a lifetime of pain, depression, and mental anguish. How is it that Uvaldians have the audacity to speak about your great impact you've made to these 5 or 6 schools? Exactly what did you do all day long that you couldn't take walks around the campuses that are entrusted to you and the rest of your administration? I'm sure you visited Principal Gutierrez at Robb to evaluate her and Vice Principal Shanna Wilbert. How did you not become aware of the many disturbance safety issues? And why did you allow Principal Gutierrez to get away with her dangerous complacency? For God's sakes, why is she still employed with UCISD? This district is becoming known as the most disgraceful place for employment, and you all still continue to make egregious decisions such as not vetting Crimson Elizondo and hiring this DPS officer who's under investigation for failure to do her job and had a front row seat to the Rob massacre. How could you allow this to happen? All of Uvalde should be furious. This is like living in the Twilight Zone or the movie set of The Purge. Simply unbelievable. How is it that you all are entitled to get a pass in the most violent school massacre in Texas? Y'all should have been fired or arrested for gross negligence, child endangerment, something. I have to have faith that justice is upon you. And if that is not enough, I also have to include another incident with UCISD that added insult to injury and clearly shows your lack of leadership and guidance. My niece, who attends Uvalde CISD Virtual Academy, an alternative educational format that we had to plead with you to provide for my nieces after this traumatic massacre, was extremely heartbreaking. My niece was distraught, and we were in disbelief that one of her courses was forensic science. It literally opened up all the fresh wounds she was still recovering from. I shook with rage and disgust that your employee, Dr. Becky Reinhardt, administrator for Uvalde's Virtual Academy, would even consider placing my niece, who lost her mother in a most horrific way, a course that specifically deals with such violence, especially at this time in her life. This woman is my sister Irma's former principal at Rob. I even worked with her at Rob decades ago. To think that she would consciously add this course to her schedule is beyond my comprehension. It's as if your administration will do anything to destroy and break us. This is absolutely unacceptable. It took me 2 days to calm my anger enough to call her and address this issue with her. Her response was quick to admit fault and apologized, but cold-hearted at the same time. You all need to reevaluate your job requirements and have some empathy. These gut punches will someday come back to haunt you. The lack of love, care, and respect for this profession in UCISD is not acceptable. You have angered the wrong people, and we will not stop defending our families and the innocent students who don't have anyone to defend them. We should not have to be pleading and demonstrating outside your place of work for accountability and justice for the unheard voices. You all should be self-examining your choices made on May 24th and the 20 weeks that have passed.
Ma'am, your 3 minutes are up, ma'am.
We will continue to channel our grief. I travel from San Antonio. I had a nervous breakdown last week. For God's sakes, please let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
We will continue to channel our grief into advocating for all students and employees. Irma's death and the rest of the 21, and most importantly, the innocent survivors who saw and smelled death, will not go in vain. Uvalde needs a competent, educated, and empathetic administration that will ensure each student has an excellent foundation to reach their goals in a safe learning environment. That's part of your mission statement. We will continue to pick up the jagged pieces of our hearts that this school entity has pounded on us with, and continue to stand up for what is right and just. In God's name I pray. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We got Ms. Kim Rubio.
Hal Harrell was my youth basketball coach. He was my principal, and he's the man that's seen handing me my diploma. The families never called for Hal Harrell to resign or retire. We asked for the UCISD officers whose actions have been called into question be placed on administrative leave pending an investigation, a common practice. Hal Harrell reached the decision to retire on his own, and I respect that, even though I personally emailed several board members back in July to say that I was not in favor of that. But that's Hal, always putting the students first. and I am disgusted by this community. How dare you decide now when a job is at stake to come together, but you stayed home? As we, the families, have been demanding transparency and accountability. How dare you attack those of us who lost our children in the worst way possible? How dare you attack the family of Amory Joe, a hero who died trying to call 911 and save other children? How dare you attack my family? My daughter would have been a better human being than all of us combined. How dare you attack the teachers who lost children and still return to this district because they love their students? You should be ashamed of yourself. For the individuals who spent the weekend bashing 21 grieving families, go home and hug your kids and be glad that you can, because I'll be at the cemetery because that's the closest I can get to my baby.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. We got the last one, this has to be the last one, Ms. Marisa Lozano.
My name is Marisa Lozano. Irma Garcia was my sister. I've chosen to stay silent at all of these meetings for various reasons, but mainly I didn't want to cause any backlash towards my nieces. That was a mistake on my part and a decision I truly regret. Irma taught for this school district for 23 years. She taught summer school each of those years, 23 years of lesson plans, school activities, parent-teacher conferences, forming relationships with her coworkers, and educating her students all ended on May 24th of 2022. The last time my nieces and nephews were in this room, no, not too long ago, you presented their mother with a well-deserved Teacher of the Year award. The last time my nieces and nephews were in this room, not too long ago, you presented their mother with a well-deserved Teacher of the Year award. Now, 4 months after this horrific massacre, it's painfully obvious that you're trying to forget her. Living long enough to be able to retire is an absolute blessing. Irma will never get that chance. Her last day at work, she was encountered by a monster who was able to gain access into her unsecured building. Irma stared pure evil in the eye, and with her last act on this earth, and with zero form of protection, she tried to save as many children as she possibly could. They were not her biological children, and she didn't hide behind a wall. Her first and last instinct was to save them. My God, the fear she must have felt in her last moment. My sister was the best of us. She died a hero. And yet you didn't even bother to mention her, Eva, or those precious children during this year's convocation. That was a punch to the heart. By excluding them, you made it clear to all of us that you were fine to move on without them. The shameful attempts taken to forget her memory and legacy did not go unnoticed, and it is very telling. You wasted no time securing central office when you felt threatened by grieving parents who only want accountability. Yet it took months to even begin securing the schools that are to this day still not secured. You have a lot of supporters. Good for you. Regardless if you're a good man or how many teachers you know by name, the fact remains you failed to protect Irma, Eva, and those 19 babies. Your poor judgment and leadership cost people their lives. Knowing how many lockdowns that school had in the past year and never even considered on securing them falls on you. That same poor leadership carrying on after May 24th when you failed to hold Mandy Gutierrez accountable for hiding in her office and not alerting the school that there was an active shooter. And shuffling her around to another school and keeping her employed is insulting. Then hiring the first responder incompetent and with an established investigation on her inaction from that day also falls on you. People say that you're a nice man, and that may be true, but my family has yet to be on the receiving end of that kindness. You were guilted into visiting the family 3 days after Irma was murdered. You stood there, hardly uttered a word. The group of people you came with did most of the talking. Since then, we have never heard from your administration other than talks about gifts and donations. Any line of communication established about Irma's school-age children has been initiated by myself and my sister. The last conversation we had with Irma's husband, Joe, just a few hours before he passed. I asked him if anybody from the school or the school district had reached out to him yet, and he said no. No one had called to check on him, with the exception of a few of Irma's classmates who dropped by earlier that day. I want people to know how you and your administration have disregarded Irma's orphaned children. You can't be bothered to check on a lifetime employee's family, but you could travel miles to attend sporting events with meet and greets and photo ops on the backs of our dead. Being a leader means making hard decisions, and that isn't always easy, but keeping our schools safe should have taken precedence. You had an opportunity to be a beacon of hope and change, and instead you decided to cower and refuse to hold anybody accountable. I assume you hoped that this massacre would eventually be forgotten and the families would move on. It didn't have to be like this. Not a single one of us want to be here for this reason. Had you, the leader of this school district, communicated and established a relationship with the families, maybe things could have been different. All the good you have done for this district will always be an afterthought, a footnote in your family's legacy, because of the mismanagement of school safety that led to the deaths of subsequently 22 souls will forever overshadow it. We are not the cause of the division in this community. We had our lives turned upside down because of incompetence, and all we wanted and deserved was accountability. Change has to happen, and that can start with your resignation, regardless of who will feel uncomfortable. And one last thought. I am so grateful for the families of the 21 who walk the walk and fight the fight, who, despite being faced with enormous negativity, have held their heads high and never backed down. We owe you all a debt of gratitude. And to the families of the survivors and the surviving teachers, this can't be easy for them either. However, I would like to point out that this is how their families would have been treated. And this is how your employer would have moved on without you, and the town you love tell you to go to get over it and take it somewhere else. That is what the so-called Uvalde Strong represents. Thank you.
Thank you. We're about moving to item 3. How loud one? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Adi Jimenez. I'm a retired federal agent, and I'm here with Mr. Tony Hobart, a retired DEA agent. We're a group of retired federal, state, and local law enforcement officers that have been supporting, are going to be consulting and helping all the parents of the victims of this tragedy. We're not selling anything. We're doing this for free. But with that, I need to say the 3 minutes that are given are not enough to list or enumerate the multiple failures that the district had in school safety prior to May 24th. 3 minutes, not enough. The multiple failures during the response. And even worse, 4.5 months, there are too many failures of actually correct and secure all the schools in Uvalde CISD. The parents have been asking for just information, transparency. I pled to you, the school board. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know how to secure children. It is okay today to say, we need help, because we're here to help. But if you do not ask for help and you try to, off the wind, create this crazy distraction tactics and continue taking attention away from the reality that is keeping the school safe. There's no active shooter response plan. There is no protocol for asylums. There is no lockdown protocols. There is no reunification methods. One training, one video, one PowerPoint doesn't make a training. That doesn't work. It is proven that you have to practice exercise and that you have to notify parents, teachers, administrators, students, and the community. So fire, EMS, and law enforcement in an integrated response can save lives. That is not happening here in Uvalde. 4.5 months. And we don't have enough time, but I'll be delighted. I'll be outside and we can talk about every single one of the items that at least 2 reports have identified as failures. And I guarantee you, none have been fixed. None. So I thank you for the opportunity. Once again, we'll continue to be here because we're not going to leave them alone. It's okay to say we don't know. And finally, before I leave, the children that survive have physical wounds. The children that know about their friends dying, the teachers, the parents, they have emotional and mental wounds. And I have not seen a single movement by this board to address the walking wounded, which are the parents, the friends, the children, and the community. Thank you.